This is the review show on the official, unofficial podcast of the Melbourne Demons, the DeeBrief. Adrian Horton with you as always, and the great man, Caden McDonald, joins me. Welcome, mate.
Naughtsie, thanks for having me, mate. It's a bit doom and gloom at the moment for our footy club. So I can't say I'm looking forward to this, but hopefully it can be cathartic, as you say. We've got one away early.
We certainly have. On the monitor, I've got Freo and the doggies just to my left-hand side here, and been a pretty enjoyable game. And that's probably the most depressing thing at the moment, to be honest. There will be some positivity. There will be some light in this podcast, and I do appreciate you coming on knowing that there is so much doom and gloom around the club at the moment. But I don't want to be watching neutral games and getting excited for the prospects of Gold Coast. Even last night, North Melbourne, I was like, oh, great, I'm going to tuck into a bit of North and Sydney and see what North can do. The Gold Coast Brisbane game, Adelaide game was an absolute ripper. And then I caught a little bit of Richmond against Brisbane. I thought, God, there's some young talent running around for Richmond that are going to set the world on fire in a few years. And I don't want to be there, mate. I would rather be sitting there talking about our mob and a bright future for themselves. But unfortunately, that's where we've got ourselves to. And it's the worst start we've had to a season since 2012. And that was when Mr. Mark Neeld was at the helm. And funnily enough, he was on the big screen for K-Rock pre-game. And the writing was on the wall. As soon as I saw Neeldy, Kados, I thought, oh, shit, this is going to be a pretty disappointing night.
Yeah. Well, I think going down the highway, anyway, it's always a disappointing night. I had the option to head down and I was weighing it up. I always go to that game. But it was a Friday night and we had footy really early on Saturday. And I just played the percentages for the first time in my life. I just thought, I know how this game's going to end up. And I just don't want to be rolling home at midnight, 1 o'clock. We played at 9:20 in the morning. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to call it. And I didn't end up going down. And when I don't go to games, I feel helpless. Like I've said this before, when I'm at the MCC, I feel like I can help. I feel like my voice is just giving some energy and effort.
Booming.
It just feels like I have control when I'm there. But when I'm at home, I feel out of control. And it was a frustrating game, but I was super happy with my decision because it just ended up like if I typed into Chat GPT, like, how would this game end up? I think that's how it would. Really frustrating. You're sort of in it. You're sort of half not in it. The umpires don't give you a chop out at all, and the Cats just professionally do what they do.
I was on the phone to a friend when I got down to Geelong, a St Kilda fan, so he's actually enjoying life at the moment. It's a fair play to the Sainers, but he said to me, what do you reckon, mate? I said, I don't really reckon much, if I'm being honest. I'm just coming down to enjoy the company of others. And I said, maybe a 40-point loss. And we lost by 39. So there we go. And I'm not a betting man, but maybe he should have put that on. But this is this is where my night got to, Kados. So I got food poisoning, and I'm not going to throw I'm not going to throw the pub under the bus because whatever. It is what it is. But it was food poisoning. I know that feeling. It lasted for 24, 36 hours. I was still pretty crook yesterday. Battled my way through it, was with the kids, enjoyed their company, but my God, I went through the absolute ringer during the game. It just got worse and worse as the game on. I couldn't stomach any beers. I hardly really had a drink when you look back on the night. I probably had 4 beers over the course of, 9 or 10 hours. So it certainly wasn't the grog, and it was a horrible feeling. And I was in the stands with a few of the DeeBrief faithful. A shout out to Lockie, who is an absolute giant. He's 6'9". He plays out at Doncaster East with Josh Shackey, their new recruit this year. And I said to him, Lockie, we got to find a way to get you out there because we just can't clunk him in the forward half. And he was a ripping fella, a young man, but apologies to him because I was giving absolute donuts. I had nothing to give. I couldn't even concentrate. I got out of the stadium after somehow finding a way to get through the post-match video, and I was in All sorts. I had my first chunder in about 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was great. So that's where I was at approximately 10:30, 11 o'clock on Friday night. Set myself up for a big night with some of my closest friends and loved their company. But once it hit about 7:30, 8 o'clock, I just was on this downward spiral. So I'm not a person to be like, oh, poor me. But you know what? Far out, I had an absolute shocker. And someone figured it out with me on the night as well. I think I've been to GMHBA 16 times and I've seen Melbourne win twice. I've seen us get a draw in 2006 off the top of my head, and I've seen us lose 12 or 13 times. So maybe I just got to stop going down there.
Yeah, it's certainly not worth it. I don't know if I've been down there with the full Renault. Maybe I did go to a game last year. No, we didn't play him down there last year. I don't think I've seen the full Renault. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a horrible road trip. They're just so professional. I don't think Geelong are blowing the comp away by any stretch, but they're just so organised, and every season they've got the fundamentals down pat.
Oh,
And we just don't have that at all at the moment. And it was just the contrast of footy clubs at the moment. We can't hit handballs. We can't link up. There's no cohesion. We're just all over the shop in every facet. But I would almost argue that our 22, maybe not, but it feels like our top end talent is better than theirs. And it almost feels like our footy side, potentially, you could argue on paper, is better than theirs. But they just play the ultimate team game, and it's all about their system, and their system's always solid, and they're always on the same page, and they all know what they're doing. And their ability to identify the spare and then just chip it around and just almost use our game style against ourselves was almost a little bit embarrassing by the end of it on Friday night. So I don't know. That's the exact result that was going to happen. To be honest, I was surprised that we kept them to a pretty low score, and we got enough inside 50s and generated enough looks-ish. But, once again, we were never going to do anything on that night.
They are systemised and we are disorganised. It is the simplest way to look at it. They're cohesive. We're a bit of a mess at the moment. There are some positives to take out of it, so let's tuck into them and then we'll look at the game in a little bit more detail. But I don't want to get hung up on it too much, because for me, this is just the same script. We've seen it time and time again in this 5-14 run that we're on. 5-14. Just want to reiterate that again for the listeners. But the positive, Stephen May. So Stephen May was brilliant. He wound back the clock, and I was questioning him after the Gold Coast game. He didn't look great, but he's a proud man. I like to say it. He's his harshest critic, and he responded really well. And that was brilliant to see from Stephen, so I was glad for him. Tom McDonald as well was his sparring partner down there. I thought he was another shining light on what was a better night for footy for the Melbourne Football Club, but the base is pretty low from what we've come from. North into Gold Coast and then into Geelong. You're kind of in the game, you're kind of not. I thought we were in it a lot more just because I was down there, and there were only about 500 of us Melbourne supporters there. So the buy-in and the emotion when you're actually there is just absolutely heightened because you're completely outnumbered. And I went back and had a look at the replay last night when I put the kids down. And I'm sitting there on the laptop and I'm watching the North and Sydney game, and I'm going through a few passages of play in the second and third quarter in particular where I thought we played better footy, and we actually weren't really in the game when I look back at it. I know Harry Sharp has a moment where he gets a dodgy free kick paid against him in the goal square, would have got it back to 4 points, I think, at the time. But I think where I got to in the summation of the game is once Geelong had broken our spirit at the start of the fourth quarter after Bailey Fritsch missed that chance, they just put the foot on the gas, and not really in the manner that they normally do. Like, they have a team historically that can score at will, and all the best teams can, and we were once that, alas. But it felt like they just had us at arm's length when I went back and watched the replay. So some people might say, that's a little bit harsh. Come on, the D's were definitely in it. Not when you're putting up 6 goals. I'm sorry. When you're putting up 6 goals and you've had one more inside 50, and the way that Geelong were able to just bounce out of our forward line, take it coast to coast, kick some really simple goals, I'm sorry. We weren't really in it. Some of the other positives as well for me, Cozzy Pickett coming back into the team, 8 score involvements. We looked so much more dynamic with him at times, which was great. I thought Jake Bowie was really good. I think he's had a really promising start to the year. He's someone that has definitely held his head high in the opening month. I'm so glad that this kid's back to form because I think he is a massive talent and I think he's one of those players for the future. So he was great. Cade Chandler just absolutely works his guts out. He's brilliant. I love what he's putting up this year. He's one of the few players that I think has improved along with Jake Bowie. And then the last one, Kados, and throwing back to you, is Harvey Langford. I know he faded in the second half, but he was really good in the first half. And when he gets a side on goal, bang, he just knows where they are. So I thought that was a little bit of a glimmer and a bit of hope that we can hang on to, and a player like Xavier Lindsay, these 2 boys that we drafted last year, that we're just going to rock up to the G, mate, and just watch them go about their footy and enjoy them.
Yeah, it's just annoying. We're getting a lot of individual brilliant performances from players that we've all wanted more from, but not enough for doing it in the same game. Like even Bowie a couple of weeks ago had an outstanding game. Cade Chandler had his career best game a couple of weeks ago. You know, May was off for a little bit, but then comes back and plays well. Clary has had a pretty good patch. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels frustrating that it's 3 or 4 every week, and it's sort of 3 or 4 that we've wanted to prove us wrong. Like it feels like a Trent Rivers will have a best on ground sort of game soon to silence the critics, but then the rest will be down, and then all of a sudden a Windsor will bob up, but then the rest will be off that day. So it's really frustrating that I look at that 22 and I think, oh man, like all at the same time, if they are playing an average to good game, I feel like we're a great outfit, but they can't all put it together at the same time, which is really frustrating. Yeah, Harvey Langford's snag was unbelievable. The way he gathered it at ground levels, slapped it forward, picked it up on the left, sort of carved around it, and chipped it up. That was a really good snag. But yeah, once again, we're not seeing enough from enough players.
Forward line gets spoken about a lot. It would be remiss of us not to speak about it again. So here we are. I just look at it from a personnel perspective, and I've been one of those people that has been banging on about the midfield and the dodgy supply that the forwards have been getting, and that is certainly part of the problem. But I'm now starting to just look at the personnel when I look around the rest of the league, and Jacob Van Rooyen is horribly out of form. I keep using the word sad. It actually is sad to see because he's a 21-year-old who's still very raw, and he looks like all of his confidence is shot. It's the Space Jam theory for me. If you've seen that scene where the NBA players place their hands on the basketball and it sucks the powers out of them. And I say that because he's not even leading up at the ball. That was the most evident thing at the ground. Like watching leading patterns where we were in standing room, you're really on top of the ground. It's great vibe in the standing room. They've actually done well. Fair play to Geelong. I like to give them a little bit of shit. And who am I? I'm a Melbourne supporter, but I mean, it feels like a bit of a carnival atmosphere down there at times. But the standing room is great, so I tip my hat to them for that. And you get a really good vantage point of leading patterns when you're in that place in the ground. And there was a lot of just pointing back towards goal, running back towards goal, not running towards the ball carrier for a lot of the night. And even when he had his moments where he'd push off his direct opponent and have an opportunity to gobble up the mark, he just found a way to spill it. And to only have one mark on the night was just so damning for this young man. So I keep using the word sad and I'll continue to use it. And I think when you're absolutely shot for confidence, when you're feeling the weight of expectation, which I think he is, because we've said, hey, mate, you're the number one key forward in this lineup, and we've put all our eggs in this basket with you. I think in the future he's got to be the second or the third potentially. We need a guerrilla key forward. It's obvious for me. I'm watching guys like Tex Walker and Riley Thilthorpe on the weekend for Adelaide, and I'm just like, far out. Even Jed Walter, the Gold Coast, really impressive. Probably one of his better games for the Suns since he came into the AFL last year. And I just look at it, and this boy needs a chop out. And I think mentally it's really waning on him because he knows that the club expect more, the supporters expect more. But we're still talking about a 21-year-old kid, Kados. And I think mentally it's a bit of a problem for him.
And people keep saying to drop him and send him back to the twos and give him confidence. He's just a player that's going to have to work it out at AFL level. Like, we don't have another key forward to bring in. And it's sort of like when Cozzy was out of form a little bit last year through patches, or even Fritter a little bit now. I don't know. It's sort of, you may as well have a 30% Cozzy Pickett than bring in someone else from the two. So Jacob Van Rooyen's just going to have to work out his form at the highest level. And it's hard, but hopefully it hardens him for the rest of his career. He's got that Jack Riewoldt prototype characteristics. He's a little bit undersized. Like, I like my key forwards to be 200 and he's 193, but he's got the athleticism and the leap, the appetite for contact. So, we've seen a spectrum of forwards come in to the Melbourne Footy Club, from light athletic frames to big gorillas like Jesse Hogan. I would say on the spectrum, he's closer to that Jesse Hogan prototype that we've seen than some of the other key forwards we've had come through the system. But yeah, he's out of form. The work rate's not blowing me away at the moment. The marking's like dissipated. He can't take a mark to save his life. He's got a trampoline chest at the moment, JVR, which is frustrating. I think Disco's an interesting one. Like, he gives us tools and a bit of a mix that we don't have. Like, I like that tall Jack Gunston-y type-ish. So it feels like Disco in 3 or 4 years will be there. It feels like Roo in 3 or 4 years will be there. But I don't think Roo, as you said, can be that big gorilla. So we need to add another one. And I've always sort of, I do understand, great, a mature age, ready-made full forward would be great to get. But I also thought, there's a lot of premiers that don't have amazing forward lines. And I don't think blowing the bank account for one of these forwards was the solution. But now I am of the belief that we need someone. And they need to be 24 or 25. Like, we can't get an 18, 19-year-old, and we can't get a 31, 32-year-old. So I am of the belief that it needs to be 24, 25 years, a bit of AFL experience. We know that they're going to be, we know what we're going to get. And there's some out there, and we've been linked to a couple. Like Oscar Allen, we're sort of half linked to, and then Ollie Lord, we're half linked to. Wade Dirkson's probably not moving the needle for me as much, but if we can address that, I feel like it's going to go a long way in helping the footy side.
It will and it won't. And the reason why is because, simply put, Jacob Van Rooyen, Daniel Turner, who starting to feel like there's a world where he goes back eventually in the next year or two. Maybe it's not his thing up forward, but another player who I think people tend to forget finally feels like he's overcome his injuries. He's only played 20 games of AFL. That's it, 20 games. So we still need to give him time until we make a proper assessment. Jake Melksham, love him, but I think it's all about halving contests and playing above his weight division now rather than impacting scoreboard. I think it's just a year too far for Jakey. And again, great servant. 2018, he was magic. That goal on the left boot against Hawthorn in the semi-final. God, they were good days. I love him, but I just think it's one player that we've been a little bit too sentimental with, and that's going to be a theme for me, I think, in the coming weeks. I've got a few things up my sleeve. If we go 0-6 and what the future looks like, I'm just going to hold off on them. But he's another one where you look at it from a personnel perspective and you're like, oh, probably not. Sorry, Jake. Harry Sharp, again, probably no. Like, I think once we get some more cattle back into the lineup, he probably gets squeezed out of the side. And then Bailey Fritsch. We're here again having a Bailey Fritsch discussion. Much better, 17 disposals. I think the best thing about Bailey on Friday night is he actually took some marks and he looked aggressive. And you can't say that about him most weeks, but fair play to him. However, he has kicked 1 goal 7 in the first month of footy, and he's had 11 shots, 4 that haven't registered. I think it's 12 goals in his last 16 games. It's a crazy, crazy fall off. So we're talking about the fall off of Jacob Van Rooyen. We're talking about the incredibly out of form Bailey Fritsch, who used to be a dead-eye dick and take his opportunities. If he had 11 shots in the previous 4 or 5 years, we're talking about a player at minimum that's probably kicked 6-5, if not a little bit better, to be fair. His accuracy really ramped up post-2020. So if you look at it from a personnel perspective and you stack it up against the other teams, and I actually just did this because I'm a nerd. I did this last night where curiosity got the better of me and I just went through and I was like, all right, let's go and have a look at all of the other lineups around the league and let's look at what they've got from a forward line perspective. Oh, it does not bode well for us. In my mind, looking back on it and thinking about it last night, it is a bottom 4 forward line. And I've been big on.
Wow.
I think the bigger problem is the connection issue. What happens midfield supply, which I spoke about just earlier. It's not good. It's not good on paper, Dossie, and I think we've just got to accept that.
Yeah, I find that hard to accept. I think on
go and have a look. Run through them. Just start thinking about it. If you go through the ladder, honestly.
Do I go on like live ladder form or do I go on like form on their best day? They all click and they all play well together.
On their best day, like fuck.
Because Freda could kick 6, Cozzy gets off the chain with 4, Disco can sit on heads, Melksham halves contests and tags defenders, Spargo locks it in, Chandler kicks 2 or 3, and that's forward line is humming. And then Petty swings forward and kicks 5, and it's rocking.
That's years ago. That's the problem. That's the problem. And sentiment. I'm going to speak. I don't really want to speak about sentiment tonight, but I will speak about sentiment in the not so distant. And we're starting to just latch onto something that isn't there. Footy moves at a rapid pace. It really does. Things change so quickly, Dos. And I'm not saying things are going to change for Melbourne for the better because I actually think it's the worst. It's okay. That's not dark. That's just being objective. That's just trying to be logical about the situation that we currently find ourselves in. But what you're alluding to there, I think as a football club, a coaching department, everyone involved in all of those decisions, we are yearning for something that I don't think will reappear, and it's this idea that all of those players that you mentioned will just magically find that magic potion. It is not happening.
I haven't accepted that it's over yet. Like, I'm still of the belief that if we fix up that final disposal, like, we're going to kick snags because there's so many times we're running into an open goal and the transition from end to end's actually worked and we're about to score off a turnover, and then we're one Bailey Fritsch handball over the top, or we're one Roo Mark who's just out in space inside 50 away from finishing the goal, building some energy. We've capitalised off the turnover. The transitions actually work because we can sort of get it end to end at times, and we're just not polishing that off. So we're creating a lot of the issues ourselves, which is really frustrating. And what we did last year was abandon it. Like, it got a little bit scary. We got flogged by West Coast, flogged by Freo, and we went, oh man, let's go back to what we know. And even a footy side without Petrarca, and Oliver was banged up, and May and Lever were in and out, and Gorn was in and out. I know that we've won, 1 or whatever it is off the last 11, or 3 off the last 11. But there's so many games where undermanned we go up to the Gabba and should have beaten the Premiers. We should have beaten a top 4 Port, should have beaten a top 4 GWS, should have beaten a top 4 GWS in round 1. So I'm wondering, like,
Nah.
0-4, we feel a million miles away. It feels like we're going to ship off some veterans. The coach is going to pack his bags. But I just wonder if we're not that far away and can we get the spark back?
That is exactly why
Are we not that far away?
No, that is exactly why we're in this position. And I'm going to hold off because it's my belief at this point in time that we'll lose to Essendon. I'd love to beat Essendon. I'm not a fan of Essendon. I actually loathe Essendon. I would love to beat them. I feel like we'll lose that one. Again, I'm trying to be objective and take the emotion out of this. Fremantle, who seem like they're getting into some form. They had a good win against the
They are
Doggies.
in form. Hayden Young will be back. Darcy will be back.
Yep, and mate, we are their absolute bunnies. They just terrorise us. So the annual trouncing will happen at the G.
Well, then it's over.
This isn't.
Then it's done.
And this is the point. This is me not trying to be dark. This is me looking ahead and going, who in their right mind could actually think that we're going to roll our sleeves up and win the next 2 games of footy? Even the Essendon Football Club, I'm not confident in the slightest that we will beat them. So my point is, when we're 0-6 and it is all over and we rip the script up and we look back at it and we go, hey, the reason why we find ourselves in this position is because we have held on to this notion and this fantasy that things are going to turn and players are going to recapture their former glories. And I think we've been dealing in that space. Space is a word that Goody likes to use, for just too long, and it's been prolonged through. I'm going into my rant that I've prepared in 2 weeks, but it's going into the mismanagement, I think, of the list and certain players that we probably should have let go. So I'm alluding to a few things there. But Doss, the one thing I'll say is I love your glass half full attitude, because if Melbourne can pull it out of the fire against the Dons and we can pull it out of the fire against the team that own us at the G in front of 12,000, I'll be over the moon.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to beat Freo, but I think if we had our arms tied behind our back, we should still beat Essendon.
No.
We should be, and I know that we should beat a lot of sides, especially North Melbourne at Marvel, but I reckon we'll be 3-5. I reckon we'll beat the Bombers, we'll lose to Freo, and then we'll beat the Tigers and West Coast. We'll be 3-5, and then we can reassess, see where we're at. If we are 0-6, I will understand that it is tracking one way and one way only. But I don't know. It's a fickle, funny game, football. They're names that I can't give up on. I can't quit on them. Petrarca, like on one hand, ripping the hair out.
Now let's talk
People
about it.
think he's checked out. I see him rip the hair out and they go, he's passionate. He wants us to succeed. He's frustrated.
Let's talk
He wants
about
to
it.
hit that last handball inside 50. We want to convert.
We're gonna get to some DMs very shortly. You're gonna enjoy this.
Oh, I love this. The one that made me piss myself last week when I was listening was the Seinfeld music.
Very good, Angus.
That was hilarious.
Yes, it was very good. Shout out to Angus McKean. He didn't send one in this week. I was hoping for bit of creativity from him again, but it didn't happen. But there's some good ones that have been sent in. A few are a little bit dark and a few are upbeat and positive. So it's a mixed bag, of course, because there are eternal optimists and then there are just genuine pessimists. Just on I was going to call him Tristan. Just on Christian Petrarca.
Yeah.
So Mitch Cleary's really going to town on this.
He's dug out the secret footage.
Yeah, the body language police. Good on you, Mitch. He does an okay job. But they're making headlines. It is what it is. It was always going to be a story. So where do I sit on this with Christian? The throwing at the mouth guard. Okay. You look at it a couple of ways. Is it petulant? Maybe. Is it passionate? Maybe. Some people keep saying to me, oh, he deserves better. He should have left this football club. Like supporters of the Melbourne Football Club. Shut up. When are we going to stand up for ourselves? Honestly, this is a club that'll have a new CEO, got a new president that's incoming. Hopefully we'll finally have a new home base, or a home base that we haven't had for 30 or 40 odd years, right? Now, I think personally, again, it's not a knock on this bloke. I said it last week. He's given us some unbelievable years. We went 44 games without conceding 100 points. We had a 17-0 winning run. And among that, in Game 7, we won a premiership. 2018 is almost my favourite year. It was unbelievable. So, Simon Goodwin, you have given us some incredible times. So, thank you. But I think we're going to have a new coach next year as well. So change is coming. And the thing I'll say to Christian is the passion's great, but there were times during that game where I was watching him like a hawk behind play, and I wasn't really happy with the body language, if I'm being honest. It just seemed a little bit childish at times. And for me, it's almost like a senior manager or someone that's above you that's meant to instill you with confidence, and they're meant to empower you. And instead, they're a bit of a know-it-all, and you're not up to their level. And it actually gives you this feeling as if you're treading on eggshells around them. And I've been in that position before in my career, and it's not a good place to be. And I feel like that's potentially the vibes that Christian could give off. He kicks 2 outstanding goals because, yes, you're the main man. You're an unbelievable footballer. You're in the very top echelon of footballers in this league and have been for very long. But I don't like those vibes personally. Other people look at it differently, and that's what it's all about. But I think about Jake Lever, and I think Jake Lever's the complete opposite. I think he's encouraging, supportive. If players make mistakes, he tells them to reset and move on. And we've seen great examples of that. One of the best examples I saw was Port Adelaide last year, where we give up a goal and Jake just gets him in and he's like, who cares? It's done. Let's reset. He's tapping blokes on the arse. I love what Jake Lever's all about. And I think for Christian, great, the passion's there, the care's there. We know what you've been through. Absolutely horrific. Question marks on the medical department and what they put you through. That is no good. He asked serious questions at the footy club as well. He wasn't very happy with what was happening behind the scenes. The club made some big decisions and they cleaned a few things up back of office, and apparently he was happy about that. So you made some change. Again, didn't like the way he went about that. 19 days of silence. That's a long time in the footy world. But Christian, if you're being a little bit petulant in people's minds, like myself, just remember you can be part of the solution moving forward. So if your football future is here at this football club, then the body language for me out in the field, the things that you don't see on the cameras, I feel like it needs to be a little bit better. I feel like it needs to be more supportive, more encouraging. There was a lot of finger pointing. There was a lot of complaining that I saw from him at different times. I get that you're an absolute star, but we are clearly not in a good space at the moment. There are clearly a lot of players that are devoid of confidence. So that's my take on it. I understand that it probably comes from a place of goodwill. He wants the best out of his comrades and his fellow colleagues, but I was a bit disappointed with what I saw. And again, it wasn't the things that you saw on the cameras. And look, the sample size is a month, Kados. Things can change very, very quickly. But that was my take on the situation.
Yeah, I didn't really see a lot of it on Friday night against the Cats, but against the Suns, there was just so much of it, especially towards the umpires. And he was just so frustrated and putting his energy into things that I would think someone like him would know not to put his energy into. Like, he's a mature veteran now. Like, he's done it all in the game, essentially. And he looks like maybe what like a Harley Reid would look like at the moment. Slightly immature with the way he has been translating his frustration. So, yeah, I've noticed it, and I do expect better from him. And I have had the same thought as well. Like, you can be a part of the solution. Like, you're almost adding to the disconnect more. by the way you're communicating and the way you're acting. And no doubt, behind the scenes at the footy club, he's dragging them with him. But out on game day, he needs to be a little bit better. And they still, that little brigade still feels quite young. Like, I know Gorney's arguably one of the best captains in the comp, and Jack Viney, we all know what he's like as a leader, and Jake Lever as well. But you still look at Track and Clary, and it feels like they're still a little bit immature in the way that they seem to lead on the park, and that hasn't really changed. Like, they still look like the 22-year-olds running around sort of under Jack Viney and under Nathan Jones. There's sort of a level and a half below in terms of leadership that we can see. Once again, potentially behind the closed doors, that's not the case. But yeah, he's got to get a little bit better because we need him. Unless he has checked out, which I don't buy into as much.
No.
I think he loves the footy club. Well, maybe not loves, but I still feel like he's invested in this footy club. I still think he wants everyone around him to be better. And I think he's frustrated that we're not. But yeah, he can help us go a long way if he can tidy that up and communicate it properly.
Certainly. Let's get stuck into the DMs. Let's have a look here. So just give us a little bit of time. I'll just cut this out of the edit. Right. Where are we? Here we go. Cool. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can.
Sweet. Get stuck in. Yeah. Cool. All right. Okay, so the beauty of this, Kados, is you haven't heard any of these.
I have not.
This is what I love because I was going solo last week and I'd already queued them all up and had a listen. So let's get stuck in. This one's from Anonymous. We love the people that don't send their names in. That's okay. Some people are anonymous for a reason because some of the things they send in are as explicit as you've ever heard, and they're certainly not going to get aired on the show. But I do listen to them all, and I do have a good laugh, even at the ones that are pretty hectic and pretty full on. But let's give this one a run to kick us off.
2 tackles in the last quarter. What the fuck?
Wow.
It's I like it.
Well, that was good. I just can't believe we only had 2 tackles.
Yeah.
I was like, while I was watching the coverage, I was saying to my mates around me, we've been chasing arse for 8 quarters, even 12 quarters now. Like, against the Roos, we were just watching our midfield bare meter behind everyone, and then against the Suns, it happened the entire game where we were just chasing arse. And then the Cats. Oh, well, they even chip marked it around. I think they had something like 15 extra minutes on the ball, like for half a quarter or for almost a full quarter. We don't have the football. Like, that's frustrating that we can't win it back. We're just chasing us.
It's absolutely crazy. The other thing as well is Melbourne in last quarters this year, we are 4-9-33 against 21-9.
Deary me.
That is just berserk.
Goodness.
So the percentage for that, and this is from Swamp on X, of course, 24.44% is our percentage in last quarters.
Yeah, that's not cutting the mustard.
That is so grim. Now, some people have spoken about fitness being a problem. I don't agree because a lot of the players got in 75, 80% of the preseason. Some obviously had full preseasons. So I looked at it, and most of the cattle that we deemed to be in the best, call it 30-odd, got through preseason pretty much. So
yeah,
I don't know. And do you know one of the other reasons I don't buy it? And it's the great man, Broden Kelly, who's a dear friend of the show and a big Melbourne supporter, of course. And Max Gorn was on his podcast during the finals last year in September. And Max spoke about how 2021, 22, 23 all blurred into each other. And he felt like they never got a proper rest. And he was so pumped up for the boys to have a rest this off-season and get themselves right and get the niggles out and go again. And this is not like post-2028 where we had the well-documented postseason surgeries and so many of them that in 19 we just always got ran off our feet. And we were never going to be in that season because we're a raw group that was probably a little bit ahead of time, and that's the way it played out when you win a flag in 21. But I don't buy it. I really don't buy the idea that we're not fit. So it begs a question, Kados, and you might differ, but is it mental? Is it between the ears? Why are we so insipid in these last quarters?
I do differ a little bit because I made a joke when I watched our first practice match. Normally when the players come back and it's the first game of the season or it's an intra-club, you're looking around going, holy hat, like this bloke's transformed his body, this bloke's transformed his body, this bloke looks completely different, there's veins coming out of this bloke's shoulders. And I remember, like, I joked on this potty that, like, oh, you know, because of the HD, I didn't quite see much definition across the ground. And I almost, like, wonder if that is a fact. Like, you see Josh Tracy, who looks ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
But I look at Disco Turner, and I know people have completely different body types, and I probably shouldn't be commenting given the shape of mine resembles a potato. But Disco Turner, like, if he's going to be our big key forward, I want to see the guns. And, like, you see Jack Viney in the 2021 year, and he is just so lean, it's crazy. And there's no one, like, that lean in our side. Like, Tommy Sparrow hasn't come back looking chiseled. Like, no one looks chiseled. So I don't know if that equates to anything. They're probably running PBs, and I'm probably waffling here. But I think there could be something slightly in it that fitness-wise, we're not blowing the world away.
Don't know. We're going to go to Jack. Jackie boy, here we go.
After watching the game, just wondering what Tom Sparrow's role in this team is. I kind of feel bad for him. He just looks like he's in no man's land, playing off the half forward.
Jack, Tom Sparrow. So a player that you just mentioned there, Kados. God. I mean, he does a tagging role on Max Holmes and does a relatively good job, but I don't know if I want Tommy doing that. I feel like I want Tommy in the guts where he played some, I thought, promising footy in the first couple of rounds and rotated through there and high half forward and not responsible for marking a player. I'd rather Tommy doing a role like that. And just as an aside, Max Holmes just disrespecting the Melbourne Football Club.
Cheap.
Yeah, cheap. But you know what? This is where we've got to. Like Campbell Brown did it on some clip I saw today, and everyone's doing it. And it's such a shame. It's such a shame. Like, there was a period in time where we were respected, but it just feels like everyone's kicking us while we're down. They're like, oh, poor little Melbourne. I'm going to be really passionate about how Melbourne need to stand up for themselves, and we need to be very ruthless with all the decisions we make in the next 6 to 12 months. Or not even 6 to 12 months, like now, like right now. But I'm saving all of that for something I've prepared when we go 0-6 in my mind. So, yeah, people are disrespecting us. And just back to Tommy Sparrow, where do you sit with his role?
Yeah, it's like, do we not trust him enough to be a midfielder yet? I feel like that happens a little bit, and maybe this is a pattern, and maybe this is a reason why we are where we're at, because we draft like a Bailey Laurie who, you know, once again, he's not blown the competition apart at the highest standard, but he's playing a specific role in the VFL, kicking 3 or 4, getting 30 touches every week, and then comes in and plays on a wing or plays on a high half forward or plays as a small forward. So once again, maybe this is the product of having Petrarca, Oliver, Viney in the midfield, that none of these guys are going to get a sniff. You know, Toby Bedford goes and plays outstanding footy at GWS. James Jordan goes and plays outstanding footy at the Sydney Swans. It's a tough position to be in because I'm probably choosing track over James Jordan and Toby Bedford. But is Tom Sparrow just a result of the midfield that we've got? And it is frustrating because he's 24, 25-ish. He's sort of getting at that stage where he's ready to explode. Trent Rivers is ready to explode from a an age demographic, but once again, getting tucked into a pocket. So I don't know. It's stifling their progress. And maybe if we did, and I don't want to because better the devil you know than the devil you don't, but I would still rather a midfield with Petrarca and Oliver and Viney in it. But potentially there's a world where we accepted the evolution and these guys start to flourish and we see a Tom Sparrow turn into a Jake Saligo type that pops up. We see Trent Rivers start to look like Will Day. So, it is a little bit frustrating where we're at with the development of that little group.
We need to get one of those vaunted 3, I think, out of the club and trade for a bit of currency. But again, I'm going to save that in a fortnight's time. It's all bigger picture stuff. Just going to take you into an area that I was really happy for him today, and I'm always happy when he kicks bags. Seeing Jesse Hogan kick 9 goals straight today.
I thought you were going to say Tom Fullerton.
No, and Tommy Fullerton gets a mention soon, but seeing Jesse just take the piss and kick 9, I still love that man.
I love that man.
And I'm really happy because for me it was more just him being a happy human was everything. He had some serious problems going on, really bad problems, went back over to Perth and then probably got himself involved with the wrong crowd. And that happens. I've been there. I've done that.
Yep.
Got friends that have been in bad groups and, they come back to their old school friends and they're all good again. He's really happy. He's healthy. He's playing some incredible footy. He's the best forward in the comp. And
we knew he would be.
Imagine if we had him. Fuck.
Well, so the thing that's frustrating is some of these shows pod us and they go, oh, they haven't addressed this glaring issue. And I go, well,
was that Brownie?
That was a bit of David King. I haven't addressed it. It's the ace in the spades. But it's frustrating because when Jesse Hogan went back to GWS after Freo, we wanted him. We had a crack at him. So we're not unaware of our issues. It's just we don't have the ability to get people across to the footy club because no one wants to go to Casey. But
we blocked his move. We blocked his move.
We did.
Yep. Fact.
We pulled out, didn't we?
Yeah, because of a few individuals. I won't name them. It's not worth naming. But you know what? I'm going to drop some bombshells this year. I'm going to unearth a few things, a few secrets, because the football club have been too secretive with us for too long.
So I just get frustrated when people say we haven't addressed the issues, but we had Luke Jackson. Luke Jackson was the second ruck / forward. Once he left, we had a crack at. So I don't know. It's not like we haven't done anything. It's just like the cards haven't fallen our way. Jesse Hogan goes to GWS. Dogger goes home, and we're playing big pet dog up forward.
Oh, mate. Even James Harms is playing some good footy. He's playing some decent footy. Harmsy looks like he's got a new lease on life.
Oscar Baker wasn't, though.
No, but Harmsy would be handy at the moment. Toby Bedford, very good. James Jordan, very good. Jesse Hogan, very good.
Oof.
Luke Jackson, we're not going to go there. Sorry, we won't do that. Let's have a listen to who's next. I was going to go into really stupid areas again, but I won't get too dark. I'll try and lighten it up. We're going to go to Simone.
JVR to Casey stat. Don't delay. ASAP. Gotta go.
Ooh, Kados, I'll throw it to you.
Nah, he's got to work this out at the highest level, and it's gonna set him up to be better. But I just think for us and him, I don't know. We know he'll kick 4 or 5 at Casey. He can just do a lot of marking drills, brother. Get the grippo out. Get Tommy Mack to give you some grippo because he loves the grippo on the chest, and just start clunking them. Stop with these trampoline chest marks. It's infuriating. And put the knee in the back of people's heads. That's what you were good at when you first came into the team. You're not doing that as much. You're trying to wrestle.
Do you know what? Someone who's a part of the furniture here at the DeeBrief ever since 2024, Mr. Russell Robertson. Robbo's rundown, hopefully this week. He's a bit dark, but that's okay. He's one of the most glass half full people you've ever met. He's an absolute ripper, as everyone knows, that's associated with this football club. Can he just, do you know what? Can Robbo get rid of the microphone doing the game day emceeing role, pass it on to you, and can the club employ him to go and teach the boys how to lead? Because the one thing
Oh my God.
that Robbo was extremely good at was presenting for the ball. He was awesome at it. So good at getting on a lead, so good at making space for himself, so good at jumping on blokes' heads. Robbo, pass the mic to Caden. He can take over the emceeing and game day roles. You can pump up the crowd. And I reckon the club, their money is better spent on Robbo, getting him down to training and teaching the boys how to lead. There you go.
Yeah, and we need it. And stop with the chest marks. Stop with the chest marks.
It's annoying. We'll go to Paulie. What do you got, Paulie? Oh, Paulie's not loading. That's okay. We'll go back.
Paul. Need you here, Paul.
we're trying to load you up, Paul. We're gonna come back to you in a second. Oh, we're gonna go to Joey Rush. A shout out to the great man. What has he got?
Enough's enough. We need fresh eyes, fresh vision. We're systematically appalling. A Chris Scott would just lick his lips and find it comical how poorly we are structured and systemised. It's just embarrassing to watch, really.
Ooh.
Yeah, enough's enough.
Enough's enough from Joey Rush.
Goodbye, Joey.
Well,
Can't argue with that.
The thing you can't argue with is it's the same script nearly every single time. Connection issues, forward of centre. It feels like we're the only team. I said this to Rollo and Richie on Saturday morning in the wash-up. We are the only team that could somehow find a way to stuff up a situation where we've got like a 4v2 overlap.
Oh.
And instead of kicking it to advantage to the forward, or instead of the forward leading up at the ball with acres of space, Pagan's paddock space, they either don't lead into the space or they lead back towards goal. The two get confused. The kicker and the forward get confused. And it just feels like when we're in transition and it looks like we're an absolute Monty to score, we just find incredible ways to not kick the goal. Does it look like that on the telecast? Because I've been at every game so far this year, Kados. And is that what you saw on Friday night? Because I just thought it was extraordinary. The amount of times where it looked like we're out and we're about to kick a goal and we somehow found a way to stuff it up.
Yeah, it does look like that. And that's what I'm talking about. Like and I'm holding on. And I'm a week or two away from being in the basket of, oh yeah, like the cliff's arrived, it's done and dusted, changes need to be made. But I watch so many games with us and I just go, man, we are one handball away from making this a certainty where it is a 4-on-2 and we have butchered it. So we are in this transition of our game plan. Last year, we bailed on it. This year, we're committing to it. So I just wonder, by round 8, by round 7, does it click? Does it end up starting to take shape a little bit? We know we're not going to make finals this year. Potentially, it's another wasted season. But by the end of this year, are we going to become a plucky side with this new game plan where we're going into 2026 going, geez, it clicked, it looked great. We're a couple of changes in the off-season away from feeling like we have a footy side again. Because at the moment, it feels like we're on the brink of just absolute despair.
I don't think the game plan matters this year because I think we'll have a new coach next year. That's my take. So Nick Musgrove spoke so well, and he just speaks well in general in our post-match last week against the Gold Coast. He spoke about how he wanted to see something that resembles a Melbourne game plan. However, where I've got to with it is I don't know if it's actually relevant in my mind. And you might say, well, hang on, I'm hanging on for the next couple of weeks to see if we can work it out and maybe give ourselves some sense of hope for what 2025 can become. But because I've almost consigned it to the bin, there's a big part of me that feels like a game plan almost in this year might not mean that much in the long haul, especially given the fact that I think we're going to have a new coach next year. So that's my read on the situation. That's what I think will happen. That's why I think it's almost more about individual performance and seeing growth in players. And the game plan for me is almost a bit of a moot point. People might go, that's horseshit, because you still want to see players playing a certain brand and a certain style that stacks up, that they can potentially translate into what new coach and new game plan looks like next year. But that's almost my read on the situation. I feel like this could be a completely different club. They told us it was a completely different club in the off-season. They've been preaching unity and love and all these different things, and players are fit again and they're getting the band back together and blah, blah, blah. I'm all for that. That's great. That's good. But it's a results-based business. So the thing for me is, because there's going to be a new CEO, because there's going to be a new president, because in my opinion, again, I think we'll likely have a new coach, what we thought was going to be a different club at this juncture now, at the start of April, this revitalised footy club, well, it's not a revitalised footy club because we're 5-14 in our past 19 games. It doesn't feel any different. It actually feels worse. So my point to go glass half full is I actually think it will feel like a different football club in 12 months. Because with that amount of change across those particular positions, it has to be different. And hopefully it's different for the good reasons and for positive reasons. But that's why for me, Caden, I'm not as hung up on this idea of building a better game plan at the moment, because I just think there'll be so many different people in at this football club. And I think we actually might see a drastic change to the list where some of our favourite sons have actually flown the coop.
I don't like any of that.
Well, like, I think it's more about just embracing what that is.
Because that makes me not want to watch now then. Like, I feel like...
Watch it for individuals.
Yeah. No, I want to see him build something. I think it's...
Build something for what, though? Like, that's only if you believe Goodwin's the man to take us forward. Because otherwise, I just think it's irrelevant in a lot of ways.
I don't know if you can go CEO, president, and coach all within 6 to 12 months. I think that's too much.
We need to. We're doing president and CEO.
Yeah, so I worry if we do that third one, that's an old Melbourne decision. We used to do that all the time, where every year we just throw out leaders all the time. And what I liked was in 2020 or 2019, where when the heat came on, we stood our ground, and it resembled like what a Tigers did. It resembled when Geelong lose a couple of prelims and they all start going off about Chris Scott. They hold firm. It's happened with Luke Beveridge a lot, where people write him off and put a line through him. They hold firm because they know he's a great leader, and it ends up being proven correct, because in the space of a year or two, he gets them back going again. So I just worry that CEO, coach, and president all within 12 months is a little bit too much change. It could push us further. You know, when we talk about getting rid of some of the stars, it does remind me of what we did in 2007, where we just got rid of absolutely everyone, and it put us into the abyss for years. So
we've got talent, though. I think it's apples and oranges. We didn't have talent on the list back then and the environment's a lot better. Like, the environment is set up to nurture talent. Is it infinitely better than back then? I don't know. I feel like it may have regressed in the last couple of years, but I could probably confidently sit here without ever being inside the four walls and say from afar that it's significantly better than what it was. It was shambles territory from what I know with third-party information back then in those dark days.
But I feel like it's been significantly better because of the people that we're now moving on. So that's what worries me. Like Roffey and Pert, there was a little patch there for 2 or 3 years where it felt like they had set us up to be a unbelievable club for 20 years. And then all of a sudden we're shifting them out. And I know
they didn't set us up. Come on. Peter Jackson set us up. Paul Roos set us up. You got to go back that far. Like, they were the ones that recalibrated us, got us on the right track. But again, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I just get worried that, like, I had a lot of, when we won the flag with Pert, Roffey, Goodwin, I put a lot of faith in them. And I understand that you got to keep it fresh and you need new ideas. And sometimes they don't perform, so you do need new leadership. But getting rid of 3 people that took us all the way and bringing new people in, like you just don't know who you're bringing in. Maybe we are bringing a better coach in. Maybe we are bringing a better president, but maybe we're not. And that unknown scares me. And we won't know for 4 or 5 years, but that unknown terrifies me, knowing what we have done decision-wise in the past. And it felt like we got it right for 5 years, but now we're going back to throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So, yeah, it's a watch, but I just get worried with that amount of leadership turnover.
I think we're on completely different wavelengths, and there is nothing wrong with that, because I know some people will fear what we once were. I don't fear it one iota. I'm actually excited about getting in Stephen Smith, everything I know. I'm actually super excited about getting a new CEO in, and I'm excited about potentially getting in a coach that can play the progressive modern day game plan. Thanks to Goody, everything he's done, but I'm actually excited about what the future can become. And I genuinely believe, I am positive about the fact that we've got enough young list on the talent. Listen to that. That is a Sunday after food poisoning, if you've ever heard it. Seriously. I am that positive that there is enough and bullish, enough young talent on the list. Windsor, Langford, Lindsay, Bowie, Rivers, etc., 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 and still enough senior players in the mid-20s to late 20s that by the time we hit 2028, we might be in a window again. I believe we can bounce back that quickly and we can build towards something again. So there is some positivity in my brain. Don't worry about that. We're going to try and play Paulie again. Let's have a look.
Can't, Paul. Find your voice here.
G'day, Naughtsie. Paulie B here. Love the show, mate. Look, just to be a little bit positive for a change, really happy with the endeavour tonight. I thought May was outstanding, and you could see that the intent was there after the 10-minute mark of the second quarter. My question is, what are we going to do with that last kick into the forward 50, though? It's an abomination, absolutely horrendous. We cannot hit a target. We cannot connect. It's been like this for going on 5-6 years now. I'm not sure what the answer is. I don't know if we've got the answer. We cannot get the ball in Viney's hands. He absolutely spuds it up every single time he gets the ball. I shouldn't be singling him out. There are a lot of others that are like this. Anyway, mate, love the show. Thanks.
Thanks, Paulie. Poor Jack gets a little drive-by, but it's fair enough. It's the worst efficiency year for him thus far. It's a month. It's not the greatest sample size, but he's never been this poor by foot. Is he the player you want with ball in hand, streaming inside 50? No, he's not. And maybe we need to identify that and look at that a little bit more. I actually think Kados, and I'd love to know your thoughts. I think I've said this before, but as a high half forward, if you just told him all we need you to do is just try and help us trap the ball inside 50 and ensure that it doesn't bounce out, can you play that role for us? Can you do that? And then the other thing is he's low-key a good set shot and he knows where the goals are. He just doesn't get himself into those positions too much. And he's actually typically the one that's bombing it in there rather than the one who's actually taking the shots on goal. He almost needs to be 30, 40 metres a bit deeper, and maybe that's a different role for him.
He's always been a goal kicker. Not like a full prolific goal-kicking mid, but he always bobs up every couple of games. I sometimes watch 2021 highlights, 2022 highlights, 2023. And Jack Viney, when he's on the same page as the system, can look like a half-decent sort of user, like not Bailey Dale or Errol Goulden-esque, but when he knows where he has to put it and he's a part of the right system, it doesn't look as bad as what it looks like now. But he has been really disappointing. He kicks long when they're leading up. He tries to bite off little ones when they're going deep. I think I've been a little bit disappointed with Jack Viney around the midfield. He's he likes to sort of kick the footy in front of him or slap it or bump it or sort of just run into the footy, have it bounce off him and bobble around instead of being clean. And that's what's really been frustrating with me in and around centre clearance. It's like if Jack Viney's a little bit cleaner, takes the ball first possession, either holds it in or handballs it out, I feel like we're better off. But he's doing a lot of bobbling recently, which has been disappointing. And it is annoying because there's a lot of neutral supporters who go, oh, Jack Viney, he's too old, should have gotten rid of him. And I'm like, well, he's coming off one of his best seasons. So I don't know about the fitness or whatnot, but the contrast in what he was producing last year for us to what he's doing now is very disappointing.
We're going to go to Louis and Spence. Two-pronged attack here.
G'day, this is Louis and Spence. We're on the front porch drinking a couple of Carlton drafts. We love the debrief. My first point is, where the hell has our forward press gone? It is almost non-existent anymore, and it's really alarming because we used to be absolutely the best forward press in the comp. It felt like every game was played in our forward half. Even though our forward connection was never really that good, we would still manage to keep most of the game in our forward half, and that is not even a factor of the game anymore. We are now playing most of the game in our back half, in their back half. I mean, their forward half, our back half, and we still don't have connection. So we're really shooting ourselves in the foot. Yeah.
Yeah. Echoing some of Louis' points, it's just we seem to get caught out on turnover, which is as soon as we get the ball in our front half, they get the ball straight out and we're exposed. And it really hurts us on the scoreboard because we work so hard to get it in the front half and then we're tired and we can't compete with them going the other way. So, yeah, keen to get your thoughts. Cheers.
That's your point, Kados. You talk about how we're just chasing for, what was it, the last 12 quarters of footy?
Yeah, just chasing us. Literally. Like, it'd just be so tiring. Like, goals bring energy and we can't get goals. And then I think marks sort of relieve pressure and we can't take marks. So we're just in this cycle of just running with the footy or running without it. Louis and Spence, that could be a little show within a show. That was unbelievable fodder. And they are right. And I've questioned, like, we played this front half game. We'd win inside 50s. We'd win contested footy and clearance and we'd lose. We'd lose by 5-10 points. And it happened over 2 seasons, really frustrating. And I wonder, and this wouldn't be the case, but would it be part of the game plan? Because every team scores off back half turnovers. Are we wanting to give them a little bit more? Like, are we wanting them to move it out of our 50 to try and capitalise off a turnover at the heart? Like, are we giving oppositions too much, which is getting us in strife?
I don't think so. I just think we lack leg speed in a big way. I spoke about that last week at length. I think we're just slow. Harrison Petty and Christian Salem, love you boys, but slow. Harrison Petty, woefully out of form as well. Not spoken about enough. Honestly,
I've been a big Petty man for a long time.
Well, his inability to win one-on-ones at the moment, just getting pushed off the ball against opponents that
Ben Long was manhandling Harrison Petty a couple of weeks ago.
I know.
And Bailey Humphries.
I know. It's a hard watch.
Come on, Pet Dog.
Pet's got to find that mongrel bastard again because we know it's in there. But if you're having a conversation around Jake Lever coming back into the team this week, see you, Pets. Like, if you can't have them all in the team, T-Mac absolutely keeps his spot. So it's disappointing to see the start that Petty's made, particularly given he played well against GWS. But last 3 weeks, he looks a bit old. He looks a bit brittle, Pets. We need that mongrel bastard back.
Yeah, he used to be the manhandler, and now he's getting manhandled. A bit of a sidebar is I thought Jed Adams wasn't that impressive in the game against Freo. He did just look like a VFL player stepping up to the big leagues. But I did watch the VFL, and I actually punched my remote because there was this soft free kick and the Cats kicked clear and we coughed up a lead and we should have won. And remotes buttons just went everywhere and had to fix that. It was a bit embarrassing. It was the VFL McDonald, come on. But Jed Adams looked great. So,
Yeah.
we're having Jake Lever in no matter what, but finally there's a little bit of selection pressure for the key backs. Like I know Adam Tomlinson would get rotated in every now and again, and I feel like Marty Hawes just made a great paper at this stage. He just keeps his body's failing him, which is frustrating because he's a great intercepting type. But maybe Jed Adams puts a bit of selection pressure on some of the keys.
Well, we're about to go to Ethan's clip because there's another player that I think is banging down the door and deserves a shot. And I think most people will know who it is, particularly if they keep across the VFL team, that is. But just to Louis and Spence really quickly on the forward press, one of the key statistics that I would often look at when we were prime Melbourne in 2021 especially, and even 2022 and 23 was inside 50 tackle count. So big on it. I think it just speaks to the work ethic of the forwards, particularly the ones in the ground ball game that get after their opposition. They try and create opportunities and keep it in there. It's really fallen away from last year. Teams do bounce it out far too quickly, and it was a hallmark of our game when we won the flag, and definitely a hallmark of Richmond's when they won their 3 flags. They didn't have the greatest list, to be honest, but my God, their system, their work ethic, their hunt and their will to put pressure on the ball carrier caused so many issues for players coming out of D50. They would just give it back to them. They had guys like Grimes and Rance and Floston and co, and these guys would just pick it off at will because the pressure from the ball carrier was just on the ball carrier was just exceptional. Like, it was so good to watch. And we had a bit of that DNA, and we have completely and utterly lost that DNA. It just is so hard to watch. It is so hard to watch when players just waltz it out of our forward 50. So if there's anything that the coaching staff want to address and we want to see more of, especially as a supporter of a football club in a game that demands that frontal pressure, I don't know if there's many teams that don't win flags without that frontal pressure, especially in the last 10 or so years, Kados. It feels like that. Just give us a little bit of that, Melbourne. Just wind the clock back and give us a bit of that frontal pressure because far out. Louis and Spence, I miss it. And I know you boys miss it too. We're going to go to Ethan because this bloke just deserves a chance, I reckon. Just put him in.
Seriously, where do we start as a club? We have no one in the twos seriously knocking down the door besides Fullerton, who, for whatever reason, cannot crack into our one side. We do not have the depth like we did in 21 and 22. No players realistically are under pressure. So even if they dish up performances like they do these last few weeks, they know their spot's safe. And we're just in that awful position where our top end talent clearly can't carry the side like they used to. They're dropping off. Our youngsters haven't come through yet, and they can't provide what's needed. And we don't have any draft capital to back it up. So I think Clary, Cos, Fritter even apparently track, if you want to go at the end of the offseason, don't let the door hit you on your way out. We'll get them picks back, scrap the team, top to bottom, rebuild. We cannot turn Langford, Lindsay, and Windsor into Trengove, Grimes, and Tumbas. We'd just be absolutely wasting them. So I think genuinely Goody out and just rebuild the whole team. There's no other option at this rate.
Rebuild the whole team? Probably not, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Not in my opinion. Kados, you can speak to that point in just a sec, but Fullerton, I think it's a 10 goals in 3 games at VFL. He clunks them. I've seen him clunking them for Casey.
Clunks him.
Yeah, clunks them.
Oh, that gets me excited.
No, genuinely clunks them. We can't take a mark inside our forward 50 at the moment, and this boy is just doing it at will down at Casey. So, Ethan, spot on. The other point, though. The other point was big at the end. Thoughts?
Well, so I think, yeah, we don't want to turn Harvey Langford and Lindsay into other high draft picks that we've had that we probably mismanaged. But I think following that point up with, so start the rebuild and throw everyone out is sort of how we got into the Trengove and Toompa situation. So that's why what we spoke about 20 minutes ago is really important to me, is that we can phase people out and it's great to get new voices and new leadership in and whatnot, but it can't all be at once because we've done that before and that was an absolute disaster. So it's a great point and it's a great thought. And I know that when players get to 28 to 30 years old, people think that that's the end of the careers. Like a lot of careers are going till 35 now, and the top end can play at the highest level till 35. So I sort of think when a Clary gets to 27, 28, 5 more years of him at his peak, he's still only 32. So getting rid of him now, or that people are talking about, feels very premature a little bit. But yeah, in terms of that leadership, you just got to get the balance right. You can't do it all at once. But I'm not against big fullers. 198 centimetres, apparently clunks him. He plays second ruck. It feels like his opportunity will be soon.
Can't get a hit out though. Remember Goody threw him under the bus in that presser just randomly out of nowhere. That was amazing. But come on, Goody. You got to play him this week. Like honestly, if you can't get a game this week, he might never get a game for the footy
Imagine
club.
he just feasts on Essendon's defence.
Oh, just give
Kicks
him
a little six-piece.
Let's just. But we've got the other thing as well for this year. All is not lost because no matter what happens, we win 2 games, 5 games, 10 games, we're still going to find out about players, and we need to find out about players. Like, are we going to give Tajwai Woden a crack for a consistent period? We're going to give him some continuity. Are we going to give
Brown?
Kynan Brown's another one. There are plenty of players where we can just go, what are you all about? Jed Adams, you mentioned before. What are you all about? Can you actually do it at AFL level? But it's not this in and out bullshit.
Yeah.
Give them 5 or 6 weeks. 5 or 6 weeks. And it's not this sub 1 week and then playing the next week and then sub and then you're back to Casey. Like, let's actually get a feel for what's on our list. Because if our season ends up becoming a rabble, which it looks like it is, we're 0-4 for God's sake, and our season doesn't go anywhere, then the reality is, why would you not look at what you've potentially got on your list?
Mm.
Stop playing the favourites every week, the players that are the undroppables, and let's have a gaze. Let's have a look what else is out there. So that's another big thing for me. Like, you can go through an entire season and you can play too many favourites, and this is a year where we actually need to expose other players to AFL senior level and just get a sense of what else is running around down at Casey. So I just hope we do it. We're going to go to 2 more and then we'll wrap up, Dossie, but we've got one here from Jesse.
Hey, Adrian. I just wanted to say, please don't get too dark on us. I can only speak for myself, but I've always admired your optimism and your positivity, and it could really help the club having a voice that isn't just pure doom and gloom. One thing I'm upbeat about is just that the burden of expectation won't exist this season. It's hung over us like a plague for 3 seasons, and maybe finally this year the players can get back to enjoying their footy. It might be the gateway to the proper success that we've all craved. Love your work as always. Hope we smash the Bombers.
Well, that first ship sailed.
No, I'm not. I'm calm. Goody said it. Goody said, "Stay calm, but get urgent" in his presser, which was interesting. I was really scratching my head. Stay calm, but get urgent. So I've got this thing in business, and I hope to run a successful business at one point in my life, and I'm going back into that realm very shortly, and I'm very excited about that. And hopefully we can do some successful things together, Caden. But one big thing that I've channeled during my career is this idea of, particularly when you're managing people, which I've got a lot of experience in, and it's this thing called, for me, clear is kind and unclear is unkind. And stay calm but get urgent from Goody. I'm like, what? It's just mixed messages. It's just confusion for me. So I just wanted to make that point. But the other thing and the other reason why I wanted to say clear is kind and unclear is unkind, it feels like we're in the latter at the moment. Players are confused. They do not know the game plan. We don't really have an identity at the moment, which is concerning. We are now starting to get barbs from opposition supporters again. Players are looking like they're mentally fragile. Players have lost significant amount of confidence in this first month, which again is concerning. And opposition players, coaches, and then media pundits and ex-players are just starting to take the absolute piss out of the Melbourne Football Club again.
Yeah.
And for me, that is because the direction of the football club, the game plan, what we're actually going to do from an administration point of view, to your point, you're absolutely spot on. We have an incoming president. Hopefully he's great, Stephen Smith. We don't have a CEO yet, right? So we don't actually have someone in that position. We might have a new coach next year. We might not. There is so much uncertainty. There is so much confusion. It is an unclear football club at the moment. The only way, in my opinion, that you can ever run a successful, if you manage a division within a company, if you manage your own company as a sole trader, if you work for yourself and you're a one-man band, you have to be so clear in every single thing you do. And at the moment, we are anything but. And to Jesse's point, I will remain optimistic. I will remain calm. I will be as objective as I've ever been this year because that is what the dialogue demands. And those are the conversations that the Melbourne Football Club need to have with each other. Have we been honest enough is not going to cut it. Cut through the bullshit and just realise it's about being clear with each other, about being transparent with each other. The fact that I saw some messaging on Channel 7 and Goody speaking about it, I think pre-game, about we had some massive honesty sessions this week. We've had the real hard conversations. Doesn't really wash with me because what I'm seeing across the board, and it's the small sample size we get as supporters because, again, we are not inside the four walls, as they like to say, is it just does not feel like a club that knows exactly what they're doing, and it doesn't feel like a club that is aligned top to bottom at the moment. It feels like it's a very unclear club, and that is unkind. We need to get clear on exactly what we're trying to achieve. And that is my big thing that I'll be preaching this year, and my big hope that we can get to some semblance of that by the end of the year. And that's why I think, Kados, that a bit of change will be good. But to your point, and maybe I'll come around to it down the track, and no doubt we'll keep speaking about this, but maybe too much change won't do us the world of good either.
Yeah, well, change is inevitable, but yeah, it's got to be done with a plan. It's got to be done with balance. I really like that message, though. What did he end on? He ended on something that I really liked.
What did you end on? Because, expectation.
Yeah, so when he spoke about expectation, I think that is spot on. Like, after we bagged the flag in 2021, I thought we were going to watch a team run around with the weight lifted off their shoulders, 57 years. I thought they were going to come out with smiles on their faces. I thought, I was expecting a team to just be like, we know how to do it. We've done it before. We're confident within ourselves. And what I watched the following couple of seasons was a team that felt like they hadn't won a flag in 500 years. Like the weight on their shoulders and the expectations from the media. And then I guess supporters, we contributed to it by saying, oh, well, you've won one, but we need one at the G. And like, it just crumbled our footy side. And I actually felt good finishing 14th, knowing that we'd have a little bit less expectations. I still feel like a Melbourne headline and the names and the superstars that we have get a lot of clicks in articles. We're a big news story to a lot of news outlets. And it feels like frustratingly, instead of just letting a 14th side in a transition with their list and in a transition with their game plan, figure it out on the fly. We're not going to sort of become irrelevant for a year until they get a scalp. Like it almost feels like the media want a pressure relieving departure, and that's frustrating at the moment. But I just wish if I could go back and have a conversation with the group a couple of years ago. That pressure to perform crumbled us, and it was a shame to see. And I hope that they're not running around like loose, happy, fun players at the moment. They're under the pump still, and it's that burden of expectation is something we've struggled to handle.
But that's the problem for me. We should be an organisation, we should be a football club that leans into it, can embrace it, can actually handle it. The fact that we weren't able to handle it on the biggest stage of all to try and achieve the supporters' dreams, the coaches' dreams, the players' dreams, the administration's dreams, to not actually do it, to follow through, because it definitely played a part. The fact that we weren't able to handle the pressure is a massive problem with this football club. I want to live in a world one day, and it might take some time. It might take 15, 20 years, where Melbourne can handle pressure. They don't buckle under pressure. And that is across all facets of the footy club. It's when someone comes out and has a shot of our footy club across the bows, like some journo, and we put them in their box. And we're like, get fucked. We're the Melbourne Football Club. This is what we stand for. Piss off. We're firm in our judgment in terms of what we do, list management-wise. Anyone we bring into the football club, this is our identity. This is what we're all about. Because you could sit there and you can make a case for Collingwood. You can make a case for Hawthorn. You can make a case for Sydney. You can make a case for Geelong. You can now make a case for Brisbane, for sure. And you could say that every single person that walks through those doors knows exactly what it means to play for that football club. They're well drilled in every single aspect of that football club. And there's a clear identity, a clear pathway towards success. And they don't stand for second standards or anything less. And Melbourne need to get themselves to that position at some point in the future. We might never get there, which is a really scary thought. And sorry to get dark, Jesse. But if we ever want to get there, one of the big things for me is A, we need to stand up for ourselves as a football club. B, we need to be really clear on what we are and what we're about. And I think a home base will certainly help that. Just having an identity, having a spot that we can take players through that we're trying to recruit, rather than, hey, we train on a public field and we also train down at this random suburb. And no offense to people that live out there, but it's a long way from the CBD and we're the Melbourne Football Club. So if we can get that in place, that'd be great. But the one thing that pisses me off, the idea that this football club is a bit mentally fragile and can't handle pressure, that narrative, I want that changed at some point in the future. I think that's going to take some time. It's fair. It's absolutely fair. This club has buckled under pressure over the journey. We've seen it many times before. There are classic examples of it. And I could go back through my whole Melbourne supporting life and I could just rip them all out. This isn't just an isolated problem to 2022 and 2023 when we tried to get a flag at the G. I want that to change. And I can't change it, but there's got to be enough people out there that are ruthless operators who are of an ilk that could come into this football club and could actually do something about it to engineer positive change and ensure that we're uncompromising. Because when I listen to Chris Scott and his press conferences, I get jealous. When I watch the Geelong Football Club before the game on Friday, they had a sponsors night for the amazing relationship they've got with Ford, which is just serendipitous. 100 years with a brand and a sponsor that just looks perfect on your jumper. Yep. It's a car manufacturer. It's from the heart of the city. It's just like far out. We're not meant to have nice things as the Melbourne Football Club. I'm just watching going around the Rangers and Zach Tui's there and Joel Selwood's there and all the old premiership heroes, and they're holding up their cups and everyone's like, hey, carnival atmosphere down in Geelong. I was so jealous. I was so bitter because I just looked around the stadium and it was like, this is a football club that is ingrained now ever since 07, 09, 11 and 22. And then, of course, those flags before they broke their drought. They are ingrained in success. They expect success. They've set up their environment for success. They don't expect anything less. They always expect to be there at the pointy end. Oh, what a world that would be. Just to live in that world as a supporter of a football club. You pay your hard-earned every year, Caden. And I don't want us to think that that isn't achievable at some point in time. I don't want us to think that we can't have nice, shiny things like Geelong, what I witnessed on Friday and what we've witnessed for a long time now. We can get that if we want that. We just have so many boxes that we need to tick over the next, I think, 10 to 15 years. And hopefully, I don't know if I'll be doing this podcast, but if I'm sitting here in my 50s and I'm taking my boys to the MCG and they're in their late teens, God forbid, Harry's going to be 6'8" and hopefully playing for the Melbourne Football Club. Jasper's going to be on the shorter side. He'll be the brain. He'll be the smart one. No offense to Harry. But I just want to take him to the footy and know that I'm finally supporting a football club that is akin to a Geelong, a Sydney, a Hawthorn, even a Collingwood. Hate them, but my God, they are just set up for success. And that is something that we don't have at the moment because things are a little bit too flimsy around the football club and there's a lot of things to fix up. And you can have your random years where you bob up and make finals and maybe pinch a final. But I want what they've got. And I'm sure a lot of supporters listening and watching want what they've got as well. So it's brutal to think about this stuff, Caden, but the planning needs to start as soon as possible because we don't want to fall behind because this is the most brutal, unforgiving competition, probably the most brutal, unforgiving competition in the world because of the salary cap and the way that the AFL favour the richer clubs and the bigger clubs at the moment. So, yeah, it'll take a lot of time to get there, but I believe we can get there if we start to implement the right people and start making the right decisions, and I would rather us start doing that sooner rather than later.
Well, fingers crossed because, yeah, we've done a phenomenal job to achieve what we've achieved with the facilities and with the resources that we've got. And, you know, we fight out of our weight class in that aspect. And, you know, I think landing that home base is a great start. And this next sort of 5 to 10 year patch for the footy club is enormous. We can set up a home and set up a system and a foundation for the next 100 years for the footy club, like an actual home base. So some massive decisions are going to be made by this new leadership coming in.
Essendon next week, just really quickly, want to win a game of footy. They're coming off a bye. Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll wait and see. But Jake Lever hopefully comes in. Judd McVie, I feel like he's 1 week off, might not make this one. Colton Tholstrop's another one that we can get excited about. He'll come back into the team in a couple of weeks, I reckon. Xavier Lindsay, probably a good chance for this week. And Tommy Fullerton as well. Does he finally get his chance in the red and blue? So there's something to be hopeful there with that mix. And I just want to win, Kados. I'm just going to leave you on that. Can we just get a win against the Dons and gather round? Please, Melbourne.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice. And it's funny that it's against the team that did a little number on us a couple of years ago when we were on fire and unstoppable. The Bombers got us over there. But I feel like out of a lot of teams, we regularly beat the Bombers. Like it feels like that's a side that we've, I would say, almost got the wood over. So fingers crossed that we can keep that up. But yeah, it's going to be a big game. I can't wait for it.
Mate, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. I tried to contain myself as much as possible. I went on some big rants there, but I am definitely thinking about the future. I would love to get more involved in the here and now. I just feel like the here and now is a bit bleak. And if you're there with me, great. If you're not there with me and you're like, nah, mate, I want to live off this idea that the D's get it done against the Dons and we somehow pull a win out of our ass against Freo and then suddenly you just never know. if you're in those areas, fair play to you. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, I've tried to be as upbeat as I can be. But as always, Caden, you've brought the light.
Thanks for having me. I think we'll be 3-5, and from that point, I have no idea what's going to happen. But we've got to turn it around. We'll start hitting the last handball, the last kick. We'll slot some snags. We'll kick 14 goals this weekend. Tommy Fullerton's going to go bananas, and the boys will be back. But then Freo will do a number on us. So, delay the excitement for another couple of weeks.
I love it. Back in the studio Thursday, the new studio. Everyone will see the new digs. We'll get that one out on YouTube. Do a little crossover with the Sash podcast this week as well. Of course, Rob, a great friend of mine, a business partner as well. So have a bit of a laugh to those boys. They've been death riding Melbourne this year because they've got our first round draft pick. So
oh my God,
they're having an absolute ball. Fair play to them. We got Xavier Lindsay out of it, so I'm not too disgruntled about that. But yeah, you'll have more content coming throughout the week because we're certainly going to keep fronting up absolutely every single week and keep putting our best foot forward and keep putting out these therapy sessions because it feels like we're going to do about 20 of them this year. So thank you very much.
Too easy. Thanks for having me.